The Russia-Ukraine conflict represents far more than a regional war between neighboring states. It has become a pivotal moment reshaping global power dynamics and international relations across continents. While Western media often frames this as a NATO-Russia confrontation, the reality is far more complex, with unexpected alliances and divisions emerging across Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. From energy markets in Europe to food security in Africa, this conflict's ripple effects touch every corner of the globe. Today, we'll uncover the hidden connections between seemingly unrelated global developments and examine how different regions interpret this conflict through their unique historical and strategic lenses. 2 weeks after Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022, a significant shift occurred within Russia's power structures. Sergei Beseda, a general in the FSB, Russia's main security agency, suddenly disappeared from public view. Beseda had been responsible for informing Vladimir Putin about Ukraine's internal dynamics, providing intelligence that led to Putin's mistaken expectation that Ukraine would quickly crumble. This miscalculation revealed a critical tension within Russia's power apparatus. The security service's prominence in subsequent negotiations carries two messages, according to intelligence experts. Putin sees negotiations as merely a stage in his military operation, rather than a path to ending the war. Russia's army now confronts not just Ukrainian forces, but also its own country's security services. The FSB's military counterintelligence force has become the largest and fastest-growing directorate within Russia's security apparatus. Its primary mission to watch the armed forces, curb the influence of popular generals, and prevent political self-organization within military ranks. In Kiev, the political calculations have grown increasingly complex. For months, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has faced intense pressure from Vladimir Putin, who questioned his legitimacy, and from international actors pushing for various diplomatic solutions. Government sources indicate that preparations are underway for Zelensky to face the electorate for a second time, potentially after a full ceasefire. This represents a significant shift in strategy, as Zelensky was previously believed to be against holding elections during wartime. The timeline remains uncertain, with legal requirements for campaigning ranging from 60 to 90 days. Opposition leaders insist a quick vote is logistically impossible. Finding a way for millions of voters abroad, in the trenches or in regions occupied by Russia to cast ballots would be extraordinarily difficult. The government could potentially use its well-regarded Dia smartphone app, but that would raise questions of transparency and require constitutional changes. As American intelligence agencies tell it, both Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky may be willing to talk about ending their war, but neither is ready to stop fighting. Both leaders for now probably still see the risks of a longer war as less than those of an unsatisfying settlement, concluded an annual threat assessment published in March 2025. The diplomatic dance has followed a predictable pattern of diminishing returns. What began as an American and Ukrainian proposal for an immediate and unconditional 30-day ceasefire was quickly narrowed by Russia to halting only aerial attacks on energy infrastructure and shipping in the Black Sea. Behind these public negotiations lies a complex web of competing interests. Ukrainian and European officials worry that America is moving to ease sanctions against Russia without securing real concessions. Meanwhile, Russia seeks to convince international mediators to ignore Ukrainian and European concerns in favor of a grand bargain that would include cooperation on oil and gas production. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has generated starkly different reactions across the globe, revealing deep divisions in how nations perceive international order and security. In Southeast Asia, ASEAN countries maintain a cautious stance, balancing their economic and military relations with Russia, an important arms supplier, while Ukraine exports raw materials to the region. According to research from the Heinrich Böll Foundation, the war in Ukraine poses a geopolitical dilemma for Asian states. Many Southeast Asian nations fear that the conflict in Taiwan could be fueled by the Ukraine precedent, raising concerns of a Chinese invasion. In the Middle East, responses have been equally varied. Russia's closest partners in the region, Iran and Syria, have been supportive of Moscow's war effort. Meanwhile, traditional U.S. allies like Saudi Arabia and the UAE have maintained strategic ambiguity, refusing to join Western sanctions while simultaneously maintaining dialogue with all parties. African nations have experienced some of the most direct economic impacts of the conflict, particularly through disruptions to food security. Russia and Ukraine together supply 30% of global wheat exports, with many African countries heavily dependent on these imports. The connections between military developments in Ukraine and global economic impacts reveal a complex web of interdependencies. Russia's army, now increasingly subordinated to its security services, makes strategic decisions that reverberate through global energy markets, food security, and international trade. One of the most significant hidden connections lies in how Russia's internal power dynamics affect its international negotiations. The prominence of security services in peace talks signals that Putin views negotiations as merely another front in his military operation rather than a genuine path to peace. In Europe, the economic implications have been profound. Prior to the invasion, Germany and other European countries imported 55% of their gas from Russia. The conflict forced a rapid and costly diversification of energy supplies, reshaping global energy markets and accelerating the transition to alternative sources. The conflict's impact on food security represents another critical hidden connection. Ukraine and Russia together account for nearly a third of global wheat exports and significant portions of corn, barley, and sunflower oil. Disruptions to Black Sea shipping have created ripple effects felt most acutely in import-dependent countries across Africa and the Middle East. As we analyze the complex interplay of military dynamics, political calculations, diplomatic maneuvering, and regional perspectives, several potential scenarios emerge for the Russia-Ukraine conflict. According to the Council of Councils experts from 13 countries, the responses differ sharply in some cases, demonstrating a divided world's approach to a complex situation. The first scenario involves continued military stalemate with periodic negotiations that yield limited results. As one expert from the Institute of International Affairs notes, a negotiated settlement now would make things worse. She argues that any current settlement would likely result in a frozen conflict. A second scenario envisions increased Western military support, enabling Ukraine to strengthen its position, potentially leading to more meaningful negotiations. However, as American intelligence agencies assess, both leaders for now probably still see the risks of a longer war as less than those of an unsatisfying settlement. A third scenario considers broader geopolitical realignment, with Russia deepening its post-Western partnerships with China, Iran, and North Korea, while attempting to expand influence in parts of the global South. This would create a more polarized international environment with competing economic and security blocs. As we've explored throughout this analysis, the Russia-Ukraine conflict represents a pivotal moment in international relations with far-reaching implications across continents. From Russia's internal power dynamics to Ukraine's complex political calculations, from global diplomatic maneuvering to diverse regional perspectives, this conflict continues to reshape our world in profound ways. The economic and security implications extend far beyond the battlefield, affecting energy markets, food security, and international trade. Different regions experience these impacts uniquely. Western nations focus on NATO security. Asian countries balance complex economic and military relationships. Middle Eastern states navigate strategic ambiguities, and African nations confront immediate food security challenges. What becomes clear is that understanding this conflict requires moving beyond simplistic narratives to appreciate the complex interplay of historical, economic, and security factors that shape different perspectives. As global citizens, we must consider, how might these shifting power dynamics affect your region in the coming years? At Omni, we remain committed to providing balanced, fact-based analysis that considers multiple perspectives on global events. Subscribe for continued in-depth coverage of international developments that connects the dots between seemingly unrelated global trends.